Okay, let's get on to this extremely interesting topic. Today, our presenter is Big Compass co-founder Tim Merkel. A software AG webMethods professional services veteran, Tim is well acquainted with the struggles of on-premise integration. He co-founded Big Compass and has built strong relationships with the leading integration technology companies like MuleSoft, Boomi, and AWS. I can't think of a more perfect person to guide us in this discussion. Tim, I'm going to turn things over to you at this time.
Excellent. Thank you, David. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me on this topic. This webinar really came out of the fact that I've been interacting with many customers who I've had the pleasure to deal with over the last 2 decades in the webMethods space, who have robust webMethods environments on premise and need to move them to the cloud. I've had the opportunity to see new integration ideas and technology come and go. Some of them were game changers, some of them were flops. But I think it's clear that the cloud is a huge opportunity for integration. And getting your webMethods environment to take advantage of all the new cloud capabilities is a daunting task, mostly because there's disagreement on the right way to get there. And we're going to talk about this air quotes right way to get there, end air quotes, today. And essentially what it'll come down to is context and trajectories. It's a mouthful, but we'll dissect that here in a little bit. But a little bit about me. I've been in integration and consulting my entire career. Spent a good amount of time with Software AG, and then as a co-CEO of Big Compass now for almost a decade, have been playing with every technology under the sun that helps companies integrate. So what I'll do is introduce Big Compass real quick, just so you guys know where I'm coming from. We'll introduce the topic of webMethods, contexts, integration contexts, and cloud trajectories, and then we'll dissect it into a deep dive and wrap it up for the day. Hopefully we'll be done in about 45 minutes, and of course, David will interrupt me with questions from the audience. Okay. So what is Big Compass all about? Big Compass is all about building connections in a disconnected world. We wake up every day to connect people to people, teams to teams, systems to systems, companies to companies. This is what we love to do. And we feel like a more connected world is a better world. The more we lean on each other and the more we depend on each other to do what we're best at, we think that we can move the world in a direction that's better for everybody. For your organization and for the organizations we touch, what do all these connections mean? Well, we believe that integration delivers a competitive advantage for organizations that get it right. This was actually born out of a frustration of mine. As integration experts, you guys all know that integration is terribly important, but is often forgotten in the organization. It's hard to see. Nobody really wants to do it. It's not like companies wake up every day and say, yes, let's go spend a bunch of money on integration. They're sort of forced into it. And then once it is working, when it breaks, it's immediately the integration team's fault or the tool's fault until they can prove otherwise. So it's guilty until proven innocent. It's silent. It's underappreciated. But we all know that when a company gets it right, this allows companies to show up and win against their competition and beat the market because they're faster, they're cheaper, they're more organized, they're more agile. And this is what gets us excited at Big Compass, is enabling companies to move faster, cheaper, and be more innovative and silently outperform all of their customers. We just talked about that now. So what are some examples of how we're enabling integration as a competitive advantage for folks? Well, the one we're going to talk about today is cloud and serverless integration, but there are 5 other areas that we are seeing a lot of movement in, and that includes API enablement, movement of big data, streaming data and real-time analytics, process automation and monitoring that and improving those processes, and data synchronization. These are some areas that we've been doing a lot of work in, but today we'll be diving into number 1. Okay. So why are we here? We're here because you have an on-premise webMethods integration platform. Maybe your coworkers and you are arguing about the right way to move to the cloud. Maybe you've got a mandate from your CIO, your CEO to get out of a data center or move to the cloud, whatever it is, wouldn't it be great if there was an article or a tool that could give you a shortcut to the cloud, similar to a Money Magazine's "Do This One Thing" to improve your 401k, or Cosmopolitan magazine saying, "Do this one thing to spice up your love life," right? Well, we do have this here at webMethods. We have one thing here at webMethods, here at Big Compass, for your webMethods environment. We do have one thing that we think you need to get right to have any chance of success in moving to the cloud. And that is knowing your enterprise integration context. Okay, now to be honest, this is a term we made up, so you probably haven't heard of it. But what it is actually 20 years of experience and perspective distilled down into a test and an assessment of your organization and where you are right now in your integration journey. And with this test and this assessment, and this essentially a persona, we can chart a successful path to the cloud. So yes, this is essentially an integration personality test for you and your organization. Now, this is a playful way to think about it, but it really is a hard-hitting 50 data point assessment of your organization and where you are and the competing forces in your organization that will either help or hinder you on your way to the cloud. Diving in just a little bit more, I want to confirm a couple of things. One, it's about your organization, not you. So you, of course, are an innovative individual, right? And you can see all the possibilities, but your organization may not view your integration capability as strategic or innovative, or they may not fully understand what it can and can't do, right? So what we're distilling here is, with the integration context of your organization, what we're trying to elicit is how the organization sees the integration capability and the competing forces around that, and how to deal with those on your journey to the cloud. Once we go through the process, you will land on one of 5 well-known profiles, and we'll dive into those. And once you know your profile, it's very liberating, because we can orient a business justification, a budget, and a project plan around your specific situation versus just guessing. And sometimes it helps to have a third party, even if it's just a simple quiz, validate what you're already thinking, and help move your initiatives forward in your organization. So without further ado, let's look at these enterprise integration contexts, otherwise known as enterprise integration personas or personalities. And you're probably scanning these, asking the question, which one am I? We'll get into that in just a little bit. But I wanted to just throw these up there. You're probably seeing some dimensions come through around webMethods versus Greenfield, or innovator versus saver, and then what the heck is this platform champion? Again, we'll get into that in just a minute. But the idea is once you know your context and your starting point, then we can start to chart a course to the cloud, right? We may be living in Denver like I am. We know where we want to go, say California. We can start to chart a course that is westernly to get me where I want to go. Now, to continue with my example, my analogy, we know that there's weather, and we know that there's air traffic patterns, and we're going to need to adjust along the way, and we're going to need to get creative. So your trajectory is your primary approach. What is the primary tool you're going to lean on to get to the cloud? But we want to make it very clear that augmentation is expected. There's no single tool or strategy that will get you to the cloud completely. And because of that, hybrid is the new normal. And we'll touch on that subject in just a little bit as well. But without further ado, let's talk about the various ways to get to the cloud. And there's waiting and revisiting, which actually isn't a way to the cloud. It's just a plan. But there's lift and shift, there's iPaaS, there's containerization, there's rewriting all your code in the custom cloud. And we find that these are the main strategies that people are using to get to the cloud. But when you start to mash all this together, there are multiple personalities in the world, and there's multiple ways to get to the cloud. And choosing the right one for you is the key. And I've talked to several customers who are arguing with themselves or with their peers in the marketplace around, no, lift and shift is the right way to go. No, iPaaS. No, we did containerization. No, we rewrote everything in the cloud. Well, the answer is that all of those are right. It just depends on where you're coming from. So that's what fascinates me about this process. And our hope is to deconfuse the situation a little bit. And we'll dive into all this in more detail in the second half of the presentation. So how do you determine your enterprise integration context? Well, there's 3 strategies. One, pick one from the screen that I'm going to show you later on in the presentation today. There's some value there. You may already know what kind of organization you are, and you may be able to take that and run with it and get some value out of it. A better way to do it would be to take our 30-minute survey, and you can do that at eic.bigcompass.com, and it'll hit you with some hard-hitting questions, and the output from that will be a mathematically determined persona. We'll map you to 5 well-known personas, and it'll give you an unbiased opinion on who you are and therefore the right way to get to the cloud. And you can do that in 30 minutes to an hour. The best value would be for Big Compass to come in and do a multi-point assessment where we do EIC interviews with folks, we smash it together, and then we can turn that into an approach recommendation, and then we can even start to do a rough order of magnitude budget. That's optional. It's free. We're doing that for our customers with great success. Don't hesitate to reach out, but by no means is it necessary. I'm happy to spill the beans on the guts of that assessment in this presentation today. It's just us. Sometimes it helps to have an outside firm come in and facilitate that process for you. All right. I'm going to take a breather there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, and I've set up the presentation, but before I keep going, I wanted to see if any questions have come up or if I've left anybody in the dust.
No, I don't see any questions from our attendees today, but I started a poll when we came into the webinar, and we'll look at it real quick. Basically, simple question. Do you have plans to migrate webMethods to the cloud? 3 answers: yes, no, or not yet. And it looks like no is winning at this time. A couple of responses to that, with people that saying that they don't have plans to migrate to the cloud. So that's an interesting answer there. I think when we look at this, you listed earlier several of the ways that people can get to the cloud, and lift and shift was the first one I think on the list. I hear that more and more often from webMethods customers, that that's kind of their natural plan, is just to move their entire process and suite up into the cloud without much change. Do you hear that as well from customers that you're working with, and do you think that that's more prevalent?
Absolutely, and there's a couple of things that contribute to that. One is webMethods does not currently have an in-product straight migration path to their cloud offering. At the time of the recording of this call, you can author new cloud-based integrations for webMethods in the cloud, but you cannot directly migrate on-premise to webmethods.io. And so that is creating a very hard, a very big barrier for folks that want to stay loyal to webMethods and move to the cloud. And so lift and shift becomes the lowest hanging fruit for now. And then there are some other folks that are very adventurous that overcome that barrier and can consider things like containerizing and rewriting their code in the cloud completely. And we've seen some success there, but that is a larger leap. And I look forward to actually talking through all these options here on the next slide. But that leap, it tends to be a bigger one, and the size of that leap tends to prevent folks from making the jump. And really, what Big Compass likes to do is help people ease the fear there, and ease the risk, and ease the complexity of that leap. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, because of those things, we see a lot of folks doing nothing, maybe analysis paralysis. Right. Or we see folks taking the low-hanging fruit, which is lift and shift, and which may or may not be right for you. Right. There's no judgment there.
Well, you said you're going to get into a few more details on that, so let's move.
Keep going.
Explore it.
All right, so I just sort of did a quick, back of the envelope analysis with David, and what we ended up doing, and by the way, this is not scripted, but what we ended up doing is kind of going through these 5 options, right? Wait and revisit. What are these 5 options? These again are the trajectories to the cloud, your main approach to the cloud. You may have a secondary or a tertiary plans as well, but what we like to do is pick your main trajectory and then augment from there. So what are those 5? One is wait and revisit. A lot of folks are choosing this right now, and that's a very valid option, right? Let's wait till the conditions are right to move to the cloud. So that's one strategy. The next one is lift and shift, and that is, as you guys know, is moving to a server somewhere else. You can save some money. You can increase your flexibility a little bit. You can possibly take advantage of your existing licenses without much of a licensing event. And so that's a very valid option. Now there's iPaaS. iPaaS comes in many shapes and sizes. There's webmethods.io, there's MuleSoft, there's Boomi. And this tends to be a very popular choice. It has its pros and its cons, but this does start to become the meaty part of the bell curve. iPaaS is a very popular choice, and we think it's a very solid choice for most people. You may have noticed as I'm going through this that the black arrow is increasing while the orange arrow on the right side is decreasing. So we do believe that these options become more costly in general, but more capable and more flexible, but also more complicated. And so your skills and your capabilities and your costs tend to go up, and as we go down this list. Containerization is the process of taking a webMethods integration server or universal messaging or whatever tools you're using and putting them in containers and taking advantage of either an on-prem container manager, or Amazon, Azure, Google all have container management solutions as well. You're starting to get into the ability to dissect your services into microservices or take advantage of auto scaling. And when I say auto scaling, I mean up and down, right, to save money. So containerization is something that we've looked at with several customers, and we did a proof of concept for some customers, and it's been mildly successful. But it did take a decent amount of discipline and skills to get there. All right, lastly, on the trajectory is custom cloud. Now this is leaving your on-premise in place and then dissecting it and decomposing it and starting to re-implement it in the cloud. And we've seen a lot of success here as well, especially when you choose things like your spiky workloads, your workloads that are very batchy and go to sleep for maybe 30 days, and workloads that need to go through an API and be secured in the cloud, right? So you can take advantage of the features that are released on a week-by-week basis in the cloud by going this direction. But you can also, run into problems if you don't have the right discipline, CI/CD, SDLC, whatever acronym you think you need to get the custom cloud functioning. That's got to be in place for this to work really well. But like I said, it's possible to mix these strategies together and pick a primary one and a secondary one. So I'll use the most odd one, but you could choose, hey, listen, we're going to go to the custom cloud. We're going to rewrite our stuff in the cloud. And then we're going to do wait and revisit for our on-premise solution. So we don't know what we're going to do with our on-prem, but we know that this 10% of these integration services can be moved to the cloud. And we know that the business case is there for that 10%. How can we make them work together, dip our toes into the cloud, but leave our on-premise solution the way it is right now? So again, choosing the right one for you in your context is important. None of these are wrong and none of these are right. David, I'll let you interrupt me with any questions if I missed anything there.
No, I think that's good. I was interested in the evolving complexity versus decreasing cost, because obviously there are different components that go into that cost piece. While it may be less cost to host in a custom cloud environment, you do have some additional development costs there, right?
Absolutely. We just did an analysis for an organization that was internally, they were debating between iPaaS and custom cloud. And we helped them come to 2 conclusions. One is you can do both, right? And iPaaS has got its strengths. But if you wanted to take advantage of an iPass plus custom, maybe it's Boomi plus Lambda to get the advantages of both. We help them determine that they could do both if they would like to. But at the same time, we also did a rough cost analysis. And yes, something like a Boomi or a MuleSoft has license costs, and the development is accelerated. Custom Cloud has no license costs or very low, and development was initially slower as the team ramped up, but then over time, as the speed of the team's development accelerated, it came in line with the development on an iPass. And so there was different break-even points at different points. And I think that they're taking that analysis internally, and we'll be picking a strategy soon. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it's interesting to really get into it.
Yeah, it does, and it reveals, kind of why you would want to engage someone that has a different opinion and can bring to the table, here are things that you haven't thought about. How do you measure the cost associated with it or the benefit associated with something?
Absolutely. Or confirm a thought you already have.
Yeah.
You might come in and just say, this is what you think you should do, and you might say, yeah, that's what we thought already. And we go, great, now you've got double confirmation, and you can take that to your stakeholders confidently.
Mm-hmm. You teased the next slide, so I want to hear you get into this.
Right, so I think I've kind of hammered on this. Hybrid is the new normal, and I won't belabor this too much, but we like to joke, look, if you have somebody downloading and uploading a spreadsheet, you're hybrid. If you're using FTP and HTTP, you're hybrid. If somebody's using Unix and Windows, you're hybrid. If you're going to use Boomi and AWS, you're hybrid. So rather than try to decide, for a long time it was, how do I achieve hybrid, or should I do hybrid? Well, the answer is you're doing it now. Quit trying to determine if you are or you're not, if we should or we shouldn't. You're hybrid now. And the question is just, what's the right tools to make up to get you where you need to go? And the answer is there is no single tool, and there's really just the right makeup for your organization. Now, Gartner agrees with us. We came up with it. I'm just kidding. We agree with Gartner with this, and there's actually a few other folks that have come to the same conclusion, that there are many tools, many processes, many stakeholders, and it's just not worth trying to decide if you are or are not hybrid. Just assume that you're going to be using a mix of tools, and the trick is optimizing the tools to cover all of your scenarios. Okay, now let's bring it back to the contexts that we introduced in the beginning of the call. Before I sort of just listed them straight down, but let's tease some details out of this a little bit. And to help us understand these contexts, we put them into a grid. And just as a reminder, there are certain paths to the cloud for certain contexts that we think are successful. And so understanding where you are is the first step. So what we did is we created this grid to kind of help quickly understand the different contexts. The x-axis across the top deals with the competing forces of innovation and budget. And so on the left side, we have the contexts where the organization says, listen, we just need you to save money. We will invest in integration as long as that investment drives costs down. Otherwise, we're not interested. At the other end of the spectrum is the innovation side, right? Where integration is the company's product. And so when we say innovate or die, we mean it, right? That the integration is the product they're selling, or is very close to the product they're selling. If integration isn't cutting edge, leading market, they will lose market share. So we've got customers who actually have integration capabilities, and they actually sell integration as a part of their product, and that is their product, right? And so if they aren't one step ahead of the competition from an integration capability perspective, they will lose in the marketplace. So that is innovate or die, right? Now, I want to make this very clear. There are many people doing many innovative things with integration out there. That doesn't mean you are innovate or die necessarily. It just means that the necessity for your organization to innovate is directly related, in the integration space, is directly related to your ability to survive as a company and win in the marketplace. Now, in the middle on the x-axis is efficiency, and this is where most people live, right? The company wants to invest or the organization wants to invest in an integration capability where it allows them to do more and move faster, and then eventually over time allows them to achieve those benefits while spending less over time. And there's a kind of seesaw between investment and benefits, and there's kind of a constant check on making sure that the ROI is there, and the ROIs are fairly short. So we think that most people live in the efficiency-driven area, but consider it a bell curve on the x-axis. The other axis, the y-axis here on the left, is the webMethods affinity. Folks on the top side of this axis have a great relationship with webMethods and Software AG, have invested in teams and knowledge and processes around webMethods, and see no reason to unhitch their wagon from that tool set and that company. Folks at the bottom, more in the greenfield area, have used webMethods in the past, have an on-premise platform, and are either indifferent or would like to actually move away from that tool set. And we call those folks greenfield. So let's choose some of these permutations and talk about just a couple of them. So in the lower right-hand corner, we'd have greenfield innovator. So somebody who has webMethods on-premise, but their culture and their organization has moved away from that tool set, and is also over time, pressure on the integration capability in the organization has increased, and there's a great awareness that their ability to go to market with the cutting edge, latest and greatest integration capabilities is paramount to their success and survival. And so naturally, I'll tip my hand a little bit here. Those folks are going to be looking at cloud native solutions, maybe an iPaaS cloud native hybrid, something along those lines. At the other end of the spectrum would be webMethods saver. So this is an organization that loves webMethods, is maybe in their organization margins are really thin right now or permanently, and they really need to invest in that product and in that capability merely to drive costs down. So every investment has to be offset with a cost savings. And for those folks, it's possible that doing nothing or lift and shift would be the approach to the cloud. So hopefully that's making sense. Right in the middle, what the heck is this platform champion? The platform champion is an organization that realizes to achieve maximum efficiency, centralizing on a tool set and trying to use that one tool set for as many things as possible is the way to achieve maximum efficiency. These organizations typically have an integration team inside the organization, and integration projects tend to get routed to that team because they know they can do it better and faster than the lines of business doing it directly. They're usually a cost center that might have some exposure to the profit side of the house. People to use the term center of excellence here, but a platform champion basically is somebody who knows that I've got to pick one tool and double down on it and maximize it, and then augment where necessary. So you might be already looking at this grid, and you might already have some clues as to what you are, and you might be curious. Okay, Tim, we've been talking now for 33 minutes. What's give me the answer? What's your recommendation for the cloud? Well, I recommend you take the EIC survey, but just short of that, why don't I go ahead and just give you the grand reveal of our recommendations for various integration contexts and the ways to get to the cloud. And I'll take this from the top down. Platform champion, given their propensity to focus on one tool, we think iPaaS is a solid choice. We're big fans of any technology, especially the ones that help our customers, but we've seen a lot of success with Boomi, Mule, and we're looking at webmethods.io. That it's a fairly new tool set, but we think that could be a good choice for webmethods customers as well. Now, we've provided an alternative on the right of each one of these recommendations. This could be used as an alternative or in combination with the primary trajectory. So I alluded to this earlier, that we had a customer we just worked with, and they were debating between iPaaS and custom cloud. And we helped them understand that they could do both, and we also helped them understand the costs and the benefits of either or. And that was a really fun exercise, and we've enabled them to make those decisions and take that analysis internally. But we are saying but more concretely, we're seeing folks choose something like a Boomi or a MuleSoft and then take some of those workloads and move them to something serverless like SQS or Lambda. And this allows you to take advantage of the mapping and tried and true, the mapping capabilities, the tried and true framework and guardrails of an iPaaS, while taking advantage of the unlimited scalability of the cloud at the same time. So we are actually seeing a lot of these two being used together at the same time. All right, moving on to webMethods innovators. So this is a group of folks that have webMethods, love webMethods, want to take it to the next level. And given that there's no current ability to move to webmethods.io from a migration perspective, we think that containerization is the way to go. Now, this requires robust SDLC, CI/CD processes, but if you're an innovative organization, you should already have this in place. Of course, if you don't, we're happy to help you with that. But this allows you to package and deploy your solutions in a more secure way, in a more microservices way, in a way that scales according to your needs, and it allows you to take advantage of compute that's in the cloud. You can do it serverless, you can do it with EC2s. So the flexibility increases, the capabilities increase, it gets you into the cloud, it gets you exposure to the cloud native tools, but it allows you to take advantage of potentially your existing webMethods licenses or will minimize the licensing event that you need to incur to get to the cloud. Now, if that's doesn't feel right to you, then iPaaS might be the better solution. And if you're excited about the webMethods platform, maybe this is a time to start reauthoring your tools in the webmethods.io platform, especially the ones that make the most sense for that migration. Again, moving down the row one more time, webMethods Saver. We've talked about this. Lifting and shifting is probably the best way to achieve cost savings with a webMethods platform. Now, this gets very nuanced because driving costs down is very unique to every organization. So it might make sense to containerize. And when we say containerize, maybe you containerize in a lift and shift fashion, where we containerize your existing runtime in a giant container, and we don't try to decompose it. But this allows you to easily scale from one runtime to 2 to 3 to 4 and back down again. So we it's one step more mature than lift and shift, and one step, but without incurring a tremendous amounts of innovation cost and thinking. And then of course, iPaaS is always an option. Greenfield innovator, we talked about this. It's somebody who's not necessarily tied to webMethods, who must innovate to succeed. And for these folks, custom cloud makes a lot of sense. There should be a lot of desire and willpower to get your SDLC and CI/CD processes in order if they're not already. And you will be exposed to the latest and greatest tool sets in the cloud and allow you to stay one step ahead of your competition. Again, iPaaS could take out a chunk of those requirements for you. Like you could do a MuleSoft or a Boomi and let that absorb the requirements around mapping and always on necessity or low latency necessities, and then you could augment with custom cloud where it makes sense and to take advantage of the cloud. So there's that option as well. Greenfield Saver. So what is this? This is an organization that wants to save money and doesn't necessarily have a strong affinity with webMethods. And so everything's on the table. Now, everything's on the table as far as moving to the cloud. So this is saying, hey, integration team, we want to save money. We don't really care about webMethods. And we feel like this puts them in a tough spot. To move to the cloud without iPaaS or without investing in a new licensed tool set requires a lot of ramp up on skills and capability, which takes money. And if the goal is to save money, moving to the cloud is going to cost money. And we feel like the best thing to do here is to just wait. Don't try to build a bridge half built. Don't try to hack out a custom cloud solution. Don't go buy a substandard piece of tooling because that'll cost you money and you won't get the value there. So what we recommend is either revisit your affinity to webMethods and stay on that platform and maybe do a lift and shift and become a webMethods saver, or revisit the saving part and see if we can build a business case for the organization that innovation is needed and investment is justified. And that's something we can help with. But barring those two outcomes, we recommend waiting. Now, if in some cases, greenfield folks could also look at like an iPaaS. I've mentioned a couple of them, but we could move down the value chain and go down to maybe like a Jitterbit or something like that, which could save money from a licensing perspective, could save money from an infrastructure perspective. But we have to really sharpen the pencils because we'll be buying more licenses to shut other licenses down, and porting costs money, and the ROI calculations will be very tough. But it's possible, and we're happy to help with that as well. That was a mouthful. I'm about to wrap it up, but David, did any questions come out during these slides? You're on mute, maybe.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Great.
I did have an observation, I guess. When you talk about all these different trajectories, a lot of decision factors go into, choosing the right one for you. But you haven't maybe talked about the role of the vendors themselves in trying to influence, their customers, existing customers or prospects on moving to a particular trajectory. I think that plays an important role, and I think that adds to the complexity of making decisions, is listening to vendors who always tell you that they've got the best solution for you. Agreed.
And I think that unless you've been steeped in these messages and had hands-on experiences with these tools, it's really hard to separate the messaging from the tooling. And some of these tools are super robust, and not until you get into the weeds do you understand that something is missing or something is really great.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think that's where something where we can add some value, either in our own personal experiences, but also with bake-offs, and we can set up scenarios that would exercise these tools in areas that we know that they're either particularly strong in or weak in, and then matching those up to your individual requirements.
Right.
I think, some vendors are very API centric, right? And say that if you just coat and powder paint coat the whole world in APIs, all of your problems will go away. And other folks say, listen, APIs are great, but that's just one use case. We're talking more about information replication and doing that as most efficiently as possible. And another vendor will say, listen, and I'm using real examples here. If you want to know which vendors I'm talking about, give me a call. But another vendor says, look, we've done a study. 80 to 90% of all B2B transactions today are EDI and flat file. The remainder of the 10% are, something proprietary or API, right? So we understand that APIs are sexy and they are the future, but let's be honest, your workload today is going to be EDI and file based. So let's orient around that for now and optimize for that. Mm-hmm. These are all legitimate marketing messages that are coming from different vendors. And the key is to know which one you're going for, and if you will ever, be able to achieve nirvana with that vendor.
Right.
And we're happy to, we're very unbiased here at Big Compass, and we're happy to sort of lay it on the line. We just need to get in touch. Just get in touch and give us, we'll let you know what we think with the right analysis.
Right. Good.
Excellent. All right. Well, just as a reminder, to kickstart this process, know thyself. Let's get you oriented on your EIC. Maybe you already picked one out today, and that's great, but I recommend spend a little bit of time with a survey. Let us give you a mathematically determined persona And if there's any benefit to us spending time, on our dime with you doing a formal assessment and giving you some outputs, we would be happy to do that as well. Just get in touch. And speaking of getting in touch, here's my contact information. You can reach me at tim@bigcompass.com. So thank you guys for your time today. I look forward to hearing from you soon. And I think we can wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, Tim, for taking us through that. That's an important and interesting perspective. I think the objectivity of Big Compass, is very valuable to people that are facing this decision of trying to move on-prem to the cloud. And I appreciate you taking the time to go through that. I want to thank everybody that attended today and welcome you to our next virtual event. And for what that is, you'll need to pay attention to our new website and our newsletter. And I think you'll find opportunities to go through more in-depth information from Tim and others on the Big Compass team. And we look forward to having you back again soon.